Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends upon when you're listening. And welcome to The Solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. Hey, Javar.
It's been a while.
Yes, since before the holidays. So
Yes,
not as long as the last time, but definitely a while.
yeah, it's been a while. I actually thought of a song, soft rock band called Stain. They had a song called "It's Been a While," and I think
Well,
it's a song from the '90s, early 2000s, I believe. It's been a while.
well, they speak the truth. It has definitely been a while, but hopefully we'll be doing these more often. And before
Absolutely.
we even move on, I should, let people know that, we are the New York City Prevention Resource Center. We are
Hmm.
housed at Children's Aid, and we are funded by OASIS, the Offices of Addiction Services and Support. It's actually office, and I made it plural, but they have a lot of offices.
Yeah, there's space. Like there's no one shares one office. It's a lot of space.
A lot of cubicles and conference
Hmm.
rooms.
Hmm.
It's been forever since we've been there, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And travel isn't a thing for a lot of us. We attempt. I know I have attempted to travel, but I have fears around it. So I may be doing less of that because of where we are in this world.
Well, I mean, look what's going on with, this big conference everybody usually goes to
Hmm.
this time every year. And a lot of people that were going to go, including you, have opted out because
Hmm.
of the uncertainty of all of this.
Absolutely, and because everyone, and I do my best not to be judgmental, and I'm human, and that's what we do as humans. We judge, but not always intentionally, especially when in the work of prevention, we drug use or alcohol use. We try not to judge, but we allow people to be themselves, and this is where I apologize. I'm gonna make this really brief. It's up to you. Get vaxxed or not get vaxxed. It's up to you. That's your choice, right? But when I say when I my next point is this is about prevention. It's about preventing myself and my loved ones from getting a virus that we still don't know much about. And this is, hey, you don't want to be vaccinated, you want to be vaccinated. I choose to do how I live my life. My life is prevention and preventing, and that's my yeah, it didn't say its other point. There it is. Okay, bye bye. but I just want to make it quick. Uh, Unfortunately, like that was my fear of contracting the virus that we still don't understand uh, what it is, and it's consistently mutating, and we're now in going on 2 years. February of this year, we're going on 2 years
Hmm.
of this virus being in existence for the entire world, not just the region, but the entire world.
Well, when you think about it, I was thinking earlier, I was like, wait a minute, it's called COVID-19. And
Yes,
that's because it was discovered in
to nine,
2019, and we
absolutely.
often forget that.
Hmm.
So it's like,
So it's
wow.
technically going on its third year because of the 19. But I mean that's well. Let's do what we do. Let's talk about drug prevention and and alcohol and trauma and all the other stuff. And that's what we do here.
Exactly. And, so much of what we do encompasses the whole person and the
Hmm.
whole community and the whole life cycle. It isn't just about preventing a substance or coming up
Absolutely,
with reasons not to use,
absolutely,
but it helps people look at why they use and how they can
absolutely.
make some positive changes in their life so that they don't have to go down that path.
And I know I mentioned this in the past. I'm just curious to see what the data looks like during this time of quarantine, and it has there been an uptick in use? Has there been an uptick in mental health, trauma, and so forth? What does that look like? And when we get
Mm.
out of that, and I'm pretty sure when we finally get out of this, hopefully sooner than later, we'll get that answer. But and my question is, how do we help each other? How do we support each other? What does that look like? And like, because we
Yep.
always look at numbers, but what do we do with these numbers? Like, oh,
Well,
that's
everything comes down to that. And I do know overdoses have gone up over 30% during the
hmm
pandemic, and that's frightening
very
because
much so.
people have a lot of despair.
Mhm.
It's hard not to be affected by this. Even we're both upbeat people, but I know you probably have your moments as I have mine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, man. Like I try different ways for self care and for my own mental health. I've been watching more movies, getting back into art. I painted recently. I'm going to paint this weekend. A portrait, well, not a portrait, but some sort of abstract art. Uh, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned. I wanted to ask you. You've been in you are in long term recovery, and I'm pretty sure having your partner at home helps. But how is someone being isolated, stuck at home? Is this like a trigger for? Is this will be a trigger for people who?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and people who got into recovery or in early recovery at the start of this have really struggled.
Mhm, mhm,
I know that the fellowship that I go to did resume in-person meetings in
mhm,
many cases over a year ago. I only go to online meetings at this point.
mhm, mhm,
I don't feel safe going in person.
mhm, mhm,
But I know that at least half the meetings in this area and in other areas have gone back to in person for a while now because it's really hard. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like in early recovery for me sitting in
mhm,
front of my computer. My computer is where I, got into my
mhm,
behavior that um, pushed me into recovery at that
mhm,
point because I
mhm,
was so sick of sitting in front of a computer and drinking and drugging with, names on a screen. In those days, we didn't see each other. We just saw names in a chat room,
mhm,
um,
mhm, mhm.
and that would have been a trigger for me. So it's very difficult for people. There's a lot of support, though. That's on the positive. We've been creative. Look at telehealth, and telehealth extends to mental health.
Mhm, mhm.
Online meetings has really been amazing. But people need that face to face. So if they're able to get together and wear a mask, most of the meetings do enforce those mask rules. Then they're going to do what they have to do because the hugs are a big part of recovery.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about this whole the in-person social interaction is different now. I miss
Hmm.
hanging out with the friends. I do go. I'll be a liar and say I don't probably once every 2 months hang out with my friends because we miss each other. It's
Yeah,
one of those things that we do hug each other when we see each other. We were all vaccinated, and that's not to put out in the world saying you have to be vaccinated. I'm just stating, part of what me and my friends we talk about. And we talk about safety amongst each other, and because of the mental health aspect of it, we text each other every single day. My phone has been I'm like, get back to work. My phone has been going off all morning of like in this group chat that we check in on each other, and that's the positive.
exactly. Well, that's
And
important too, what you're saying about checking in. But we do have some people in the waiting room. But of course,
right,
because you were talking.
yeah, absolutely.
And I do want to let them in because it's very relevant to what we're talking about. Because when this pandemic, forced us all into lockdown,
Mhm,
prevention took a new course here in New York
mhm,
City, and that's one of the reasons the people that we have in the waiting room are coming in today to talk about where we went with prevention. So let me see if I can figure out how to let them in. There we go. I'm going to admit we have a couple of people in there, and there may be a couple more coming soon. All right, so we'll let them get in here. We'll let them introduce themselves. And then we'll talk about what they have in common. Hi, it's good to see you guys.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey, Milo. And I think Dawn is still connecting. Um,
Milo, I'm digging the hair.
Thank
I,
you.
It looks
me too.
it looks full bodied.
I
Whoever
know.
whoever watches this on YouTube, you get to see it. But for our listeners, it looks full, looks healthy.
Yeah, my hair's very wavy, and it's finally like not 15 degrees, so my hair is not all like clamped down.
Sorry for the side note. Like I guess I noticed it. I had to say it.
I know. I've been thinking every time I see Milo, I think, wow, Milo's hair looks great. So,
Thank you.
hey, Dawn, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We were just talking before you got here about just about isolation and substance use and mental health and how it's been affected during the pandemic, which is great for what we're going to talk about today. But first, we'd like each of you to introduce yourself. So, Don, why don't you start out? Tell us, our audience, who you are, although you've been here before, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Dawn Insinelli, and I'm the Special Projects Manager for ADAP, which is the Archdiocesan Drug Abuse Prevention Program here in the Bronx, and we service different boroughs and counties in New York. And I oversee two coalitions with assistance from project coordinators, and I work on various special projects that are needed throughout the ADAP agency.
Great, thank you. And Milo, why don't you you've of course been here before too, but tell our listeners and our viewers who you are.
Of course, thanks for having me again today. My name is Milo. I am a community development specialist with the NYC PRC, and I primarily work with our program called NYC POP, Partners of Prevention, which is a really exciting program that I get to be a part of.
Okay, well that brings us to what we want to dedicate our episode to today. We want to call it, well, we'll probably call it this because we always come up with new names, putting the POP in prevention. And NYC POP started, when was it, Shavar, about May 2020?
April 2020.
April 2020. And do you remember why it started?
Yes, and ironically enough, the coalitions that Dawn is a part of, both FSBC, the representatives of FSBC at the time, and TNCAP came to us, and they wanted to do something. They had, the question was like we're all locked away. Like, how do we support each other? And it was that conversation, and Ronnie was like, why not? It's just not about the Bronx. It's about all of us, all five boroughs. Everyone is in prevention. Everyone's stuck at home, and that's where it came out, how to support one another through the beginning of this pandemic, because we didn't know how long it was going to be. We thought it was going to be 3 months. 2 years later, going on 2 years later, we're still in this pandemic. We're still pushing through. And Milo, thank you for the taking on that task of leading the work and continue to work. But yes, like I said, started way back when. 2 coalitions came to us, and we incorporated the entire 5 boroughs, and we've been pushing forward ever since.
And we started out pretty much doing what we're doing now, but now we do a lot more than just the 2 tasks. We were creating social media posts. The Thursday post, it actually just started out with one, our Thursday prevention post. And then the demonstration started after George Floyd was killed, and we said, we can't be silent. So we started doing a Friday social justice post. And we, as you know, we still do that, plus we do a lot more. So Milo, maybe you can describe a little, because now what's happened 2 years down the road, Milo is the point person who's actually making all this happen now and keeps NYC POP going. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the work that you're doing with NYC POP.
Yeah, absolutely. Since I've kind of stepped into this role as point person for NYC POP, we've been, working on a lot of new exciting projects. We now are also focused a lot in the arena of policy. So we've started a policy subcommittee, which is doing the work of trying to think about what are the big goals that we want to accomplish as a citywide network. How can we use our resources throughout the city to come together around certain policy issues? So that's been one of the really exciting things we started working on, is thinking about those issues of policy that we really want to focus on in New York City. And then, just in terms of our social media posting, I mean, we've just covered so much in the time that I've just been in this role. I mean, thinking about all the amazing things we've gotten to talk about, from social justice to prevention. We've had all sorts of posts around, we celebrated National Recovery Month, Red Ribbon Week, but then we've also been able to talk about things like Hispanic Heritage Month. We did a post on the Young Lords Party. We've had a lot of really interesting conversations about bringing prevention and social justice together, which I think is a really exciting next step, especially as we go forward in trying to influence policy in New York City. We're always trying to come at it with this social justice lens and this lens of collaboration between organizations and providers across the city.
Well, you mentioned something about collaboration, and I want Dawn to talk, because a lot of the times we talk to our coalitions about taking lead and taking charge. Dawn, with a couple other members, took the lead and helped us create our vision and mission, even our core values. Can you talk about that experience? Can you share how that went about?
So it was determined through the entire committee that we needed to reevaluate our mission, vision, and then later we decided on also including core values to really give an identity at a glance. What do we stand for? What are we about? Who are we serving? And we had volunteers from NYC POP committee to work on these 3 different entities. So I had some experience with working with developing missions in my previous careers. And so I decided, I'd be happy to try to lead the troops with that. But everybody, it turns out, everybody had a real passion for doing this work. So everybody who was on the committee lent so much great feedback and ideas. So it was a complete equal partnership with the group. So I was really happy about that. And even if people couldn't meet every single session, we had maybe 4 or 5 sessions every week or 2. But people did contribute with their thoughts anyway if they couldn't come to the meeting. So that shows true commitment. So we started with the mission, and we asked ourselves, well, what is the mission of this organization? And we put all the ideas into almost like a funnel. And we had a lot of information, and then what came out and what was repetitive. And we also did Google Docs to all the members to see what they thought. And so all those contributions, when we saw repetitive themes coming out, we said, well, these must be the highlights. This is what everybody is identifying with. So those things for each mission, vision, and core values became the most predominant ideas that we wanted to communicate within those 3 topics. So we developed the mission first, and we had a lot of feedback. We sent it back out to the group, asked folks for their ideas, their input, whether they liked it or had any other suggestions. So it was a very inclusive process, which is important. We can't just have 3 or 4 people just deciding what to do. We have to have consideration for everybody's thoughts, since NYC POP is made up of such a diverse group of individuals and organizations. So that lent itself to a really easy process as far as I'm concerned. We spent maybe 45 minutes each session going over everything. And I just said, everybody took the lead in developing all 3 of these. The next one we did was the vision. Again, we did the same process and took all the ideas, put them in the funnel, and said, well, what does this mean? And we really debated all the sentences and all, well, I'm a person who doesn't know anything about it. What does that mean to me? So we wanted it to obviously resonate quickly, not a whole lot of verbiage. People don't have time to read long paragraphs. So by definition, you want it to be 2 or 3 sentences for each mission, vision, and values. Some organizations have longer missions, but they have a speak to, what speaks to you right away, and they put it on their websites, and they have their employees and staff memorize it and know it and live it. And that's the other piece to it. Words are fine, but you really have to live the mission, vision, and core values. It has to reflect what you're actually doing and what you believe to be true. So you can make a lot of nice words about any organization and just put a name on top of whatever mission, but it's very distinct and very unique to what NYC POP is all about. So, those guidelines help you formulate, a true mission, vision, and core values. That's how we saw it.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you happen to have the mission, vision, and core values readily available?
I believe I do, Ronnie.
Okay, but before you read it, we just want to say hi to Mia. Thank you for coming today.
Hi, everyone.
And we're going to let you introduce yourself in a couple of minutes. Dawn is just sharing about the mission and vision, and then we want our audience to meet you again. Because last month, a lot of people came, but we need to do a reintroduction. So Dawn, could you read what you guys did, because that work was incredible.
Thank you. So mission I have here, the New York City Partners of Prevention, POP, will build a multidisciplinary coalition that addresses substance misuse in creative, innovative ways. NYC POP will coordinate, strengthen, and support prevention efforts across New York City through collaborative policy work, education, and evidence-based interventions. So if you dissect every word in that sentence, it really hits the target of what NYC POP is and does, right? So we had to almost siphon out other words and say, oh, but it does all these other things. But yes, but these are the core mission statement that we want to produce and have people understand after they read these 3 sentences. Oh, that's the mission. Okay, very clear, very crisp, and to the point. The vision is NYC Partners of Prevention, POP Coalition will be trailblazers in the field of substance misuse prevention. We envision healthy communities throughout New York City where prevention, education, and substance misuse tools are accessible to all. Again, with the vision, it's more like what is it that we see moving forward? What does our future look like? So obviously healthy communities throughout the entire city. So we want to encompass all the 5 boroughs where prevention, education, and substance misuse tools are accessible to all, which is a key element that we wanted to communicate, because if it's not accessible, then it's not really doing its job for the future, is it? You know, we can't get things done if someone can't access this information. So I think also with the social media posts that are so creative, and they're award-winning in my opinion. I look at a lot of other sites, they're really good. I'm not just saying that because I'm kind of part of that committee, but they're really, really creative. And if they had, honestly, if they had some kind of award to submit, I would 100% submit all the work that's done, because they're really quite clever and creative, and they're just not repetitive. They're not the same old, same old. So I'm just putting that as a little commercial.
I agree with you though.
Yeah.
And it's the diversity of this group. We have a cross section of people from New York City, and New York City is unlike any other place because of our diversity and because of our strengths. And I feel that the mission and the vision really emphasize those strengths. Before we move on, let's give Mia a chance to introduce herself. Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Ronnie. Hello, everyone. My name is Mia Saunders, and I'm also part of the CRW crew. I am a senior health educator with the Educational Alliance, and a lot of what I do is I facilitate curriculums like life skills, Too Good for Drugs and Violence, and I'm also getting trained in the Triple P training, which is a curriculum for parents. So that's some of the things I do as far as the youth and for the community as well. I make connections with other organizations and community centers to possibly create environmental strategy so we can cater to the needs of the community, see what they lack or what they need, kind of get more involved in their day-to-day, whether kind of looking outside, looking and saying what we think they need. So it's kind of like a bonding relationship we're trying to create with the community to enhance it in any way that we can. I also love being a part of POP and creating the cool flyers. As you can see on the page, it's catchy, it's informational, and it's a bunch of links there for you to gain more information on whatever that topic is. So I'm just happy to be here and happy to be, a creative mind to bring to CRW and the Educational Alliance as a whole.
Well,
that was a lot.
We don't want you to stop talking, because you're one of our newer members to NYC Pop, and you talked about the creativity, and you're a part of most of our subcommittees. Can you talk about, coming into that world of, right, this is already established for well over a year and a half. Like, can you talk to us about what are your thoughts on that? Doing the research, giving the ideas. Like, can you share your thoughts on all of that?
Yes, of course. So like coming in, like you said, being a new member, always I'm kind of like on the outside looking in just to, get a feel around and see how, the nature of the work you guys are doing, or how you're doing it, how you're interacting with each other. And it was a very, very welcoming feeling. So first off, I want to say that I felt comfortable. I felt a part of the team. The first meeting, you guys were including me, asking questions and wanted to hear what I had to say. So that for me was really, really comfortable, because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a part of this. I really felt a part of it, knowing that, okay, I work here, but I feel a part of the team. So that was everything I needed to actually get started, because I'm like, okay, now I can really put forth my ideas and my creativities that I have in my mind and give suggestions, and it's valued. So that right there speaks in itself, and that allowed me to do what I have to do better. So if I have to research opioid, or if I have to research Narcan or anything, I feel motivated to do so, because I'm like, they're looking for me to, have something to include in whatever we're discussing, and I feel good about it because I know that this is a team. I feel like a team rather than just, oh, okay, this is work. I really felt welcome. So researching these topics was easier for me than just another task to do. You know what I'm saying? When people hear research, they think of, oh, boring. I'm like, no, this and this, I know this is right. I could add this link in the chat. I could add this to the flyer. I could tell Milo, hey, this color, repost it like this. So it's fun to do. So it's not, like I said, it's not just like an extra task. It's more so fun to do, and then look at the purpose behind what we're doing it for. So that's a pro, I don't see much cons in that kind of situation.
Oh, that's so true. And that's what I love watching the process. A lot of
Yeah.
times I just shut off my volume and I listen because the people who show up, we're like a think tank. And we've got people coming in with all areas of expertise and sharing that knowledge. And just an example, like today's post was a fatal overdose occurs every 5 hours in New York City. Asking, did you know that? And it gives some information about it. You know, looking over 2,000 deaths per year in New York City during the pandemic. Last week's was, did you know? Last Friday's the rate of opioid deaths among Black people increased by 38% from 2018 to 2019, while rates for other racial and ethnic groups did not rise. And this, you know, the third year in a row that we've seen opioid deaths among Black communities increasing. Getting this information out to people is crucial because before we can get out there and start to come up with strategies to turn the tide on this, we need to let people know what's going on. They need to have that information. So it's been so wonderful being able to create these posts. A lot of times they tear at my heart, but we
Yeah.
want that information to get out there to people.
Yeah, I agree, Ronnie. I think it's super important for this information to get out there, and we're not giving, like, the viewers a generic version of, like a commercial or something that's put out like your brain on drugs, old kind of slogan thing, which is everything is helpful, but we're really trying to reach the community and really putting those shockers out there to say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. We can do something about it. We have prevention, we have tools, and we have resources. So that's what I really like most about what we do, because we put our heart into it, and we need that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what I really love about the creative process, as just like part of the process of creating our weekly posts is not just about, how we're able to give our message out to the community and to our viewers, but also how we're able to educate each other. Like, I feel like I'm always learning new things, like just in the process of like researching and creating our posts. Like, for example, while we were talking about this week's post about, opioids, I learned the statistic that more New Yorkers last year died from an overdose than from gun violence. I didn't know that before, and it's also really great to get to work with people who are coming from areas all over the city, very diverse, because, New York City is not one monolith. I'm here in South Brooklyn, and what's happening here in South Brooklyn isn't what's happening in East Harlem. It's not what's happening in the North Bronx. We all have our, localities, our neighborhoods, our boroughs that we represent, and we get to bring that knowledge to each other, which is one of my favorite parts of being part of POP, is that exchange of knowledge between, all of the partners, and then the way we get to bring that to the community and we get to educate other people. That's just one of my favorite things about it personally.
Now, if people want to see the posts, I mean, somebody might be listening to this and thinking, I have never seen these posts. Where are they? Where do they find them? Who's posting this stuff?
Well, we have our the NYC PRC. We post through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So you can look us up, NYC PRC. And then we have some of our partner organizations and community organizations that repost it to their social media as well.
So these posts, the whole idea was to have them go out in the same day every week across the city, and that's pretty much what's going on. I mean, we've got over 15 coalitions involved. We've got over 10 providers. I know our mailing list is over 60 people, so we've encompassed a lot of the city, and hopefully more and more will start to keep posting these and reposting them because it's good information. All right, well, what's next for POP?
I do want to share my favorite part of the post, the resources.
Course.
And I think that's part of what's next for POP, is developing that resource guide. And I think finding a place to house it so anyone, whether you live in the five boroughs or you live upstate or you live in Long Island or you live in the tri-state area or you live in any of the 50 states or across the world, you can get these resources and use these resources, whether it's a PDF file that we can have that someone can download and use to create, whether it's a day of action in the neighborhood, Or if you live in the 5 boroughs, and like I think Mia said earlier, the resources that she provides us, and then you know someone who may need triple P, whether they can do it right now, so virtual, but in the future it may be back in person. But right now, if it's virtual, we can broaden our audience. So that's probably my. And I always talk about resources. You guys know that. Like, how can people get involved? How can people, what's happening in our neighborhoods? And we talked about that we have, like Riley said, over 60 people involved in this, probably close to 70. And everyone has some sort of skill or resource or class or EDP, evidence-based practice, that they're using. And we want to share that with the entire world. We want to share that with each other, and place that and put that in some sort of a resource guide. And I mean, Mila probably can talk more about it than I can, but that's the part that excites me the most, when there's resources for someone to say, hey, this, like, as a parent myself, there's a conversation starter, which we're also doing the 3rd week of every month. We're doing sort of conversation starter with the families. How can you talk to your children, whether it's about an opioid or any type of drug or social justice issue? How do you have that conversation with your child, your family, your niece, your nephew, your grandparents, whomever? And I think that, for me, as a parent, as a family person, that's important to me. That's also a resource. I'm doing a lot of talking. But I do want, I mean, if anyone else wants to jump in and share what else is next, or what's important to them about POP, I think, please share. But the resources, I think, for me, is extremely important.
No, totally. I think you also really hit on, some of what is next for POP is, becoming more than just, a group that posts on social media and has different social marketing campaigns, to also becoming, really becoming that resource in New York City for prevention. Because we've talked about creating, a central database of all the different coalitions and partners that we have as part of NYC POP, with like contact information, like ways that the community can reach out and find, resources that are local to them, or, are resources that they might need, that our specific coalitions offer, like what Mia was mentioning about how her organization offers different forms of training. Like, we want to be able to make those connections between our partners and between the community and our partners. And so, right now we're just kind of in the planning stages of trying to make this, widen our sphere of influence, I guess. We'd love to make a TikTok, we'd love to make a website, we'd love to, expand to different forms of social media. And, like I was saying before with our policy team, we're also just really thinking about like the big issues in New York City that as a collective we want to address together. And we've, been talking a lot about in the realm of, restorative justice and, youth mental health, like these really bigger issues that have to do with prevention, but often might not be thought in the traditional prevention sense. And so putting all these things together and having our partners, bring their individual, tools and specialties to the table is really what excites me about New York POP, and is what's gonna bring us to that next level.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ronnie. I was going to say, I agree. The marathon goes on. So what's next for POP is we keep going. We keep going. We keep putting the information out there. We keep bringing the resources. And we're always here for a listening ear from the community, from the people, to also speak and say, hey, I think this will work. Or, hey, can we have this? We're here to provide services, information, and education, and to, contribute to whatever initiative that is out there to stop these negative, anything that people see as negative, or to bring awareness to everything. So, the marathon goes on.
You might have helped us develop our next campaign, the marathon goes on. I just wrote that down in my notes. So we will be using that at our next meeting. It will be upside down.
I think one thing that I'd probably put on a wish list would be some way to communicate feedback from the community. So, for example, there's so much good information that's come out. People must be using it. I'm pretty certain of that. And is there a way to capture any snippets, clips, testimonials from folks who have benefited from utilizing the coalitions, the organizations, the resource materials, whatever. So maybe, you know, Wishlist would be putting something out there where there is a feedback loop which comes back to POP, and we can review that as a team and say, wow, this is a great soundbite. This is real. This is a person from, maybe one person from every borough. You start with that, and then, you know, kind of build on that and say, wow, this is a living entity. This isn't just words. They're great words and they're great resources, but how are they being put into action? And hearing how they are from actual people who have benefited from utilizing the information that we are putting out. Yeah.
That's a great idea. And, you know, it's kind of the next step when you think about it. It's bringing the community into this work with us. You know, we're all paid to do this work. Although a lot of the committee work is done by people, you know, it's not their job necessarily, but they volunteer their time and they put these things together. But that might be the next thing to look at. How do we get the community to be involved? I mean, at this point, we're trying to be a kind of a one-stop shop for prevention. Community is part of that. So it's definitely something to look at. I look at NYC POP as what I call a super coalition. It's kind of a coalition of coalitions and providers.
Right.
And extending that to the community will make it even stronger. So, I mean, these are great thoughts about it. And you're inspiring me so much because, you know, we set out to just bring one voice together, but we pretty much have turned into the New York City Prevention Council. We just have a cooler name.
Yeah, I think just taking complete ownership of that. We are the premier entity for this resource information. You know, we need to own that, and we need to really like spread the word even more as much as we can, whether that means, you know, maybe getting an article in a significant publication or on a news media program or someone else's podcast that has a gazillion followers in New York. You know, that's, I think, something too that would help push our message out, you know.
Great ideas. We get to that point in the program where we have to realize that we have to start winding down our conversation. But this is not the end of the discussion here on our podcast for NYC POP. But I think we need to ask our usual question of our guest today, Shavar. What do you think?
Uh-oh.
It's not a scary question.
It's a fun question.
Big question. I want you guys to think back to when you guys were younger, right? When you were that spry youth who had all this energy and wanted to take over the world. What did you want to be when you were a child? When I got older, what did you want to be? And tell us why. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go for it.
I had a couple of things. One was a writer / journalist. 2 was a detective. Okay. So I am in the writing field. I've always written, and I've always been in a work environment and communications, basically. So I'm always in the writing mode. But the detective piece was just like a real passion of mine. And I think just having that mindset and those skills helps me with everything that I do, because I'm always questioning, I'm always thinking, I'm always trying to figure, you know, how to make connections and things like that. So the actual thing that I wanted to be, the skills are there as an adult, and I still kind of follow that path, even though I might not have, you know, actually become a detective or a journalist in the traditional sense. Yeah.
But guess
What
what?
did you?
Oh,
What's that?
I was gonna say you are doing detective work when you're doing research for POP. So
That's right.
You are
That's right.
still fulfilling part of your childhood dream. You don't have the badge in the coat. I'm thinking
No.
television.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say.
I know Columbo's one of my favorites.
I was going to ask, who's your favorite TV detective?
Yeah. Oh, totally Columbo, my man.
Okay. Very cool. Well, now we know who to go to when we really want to find out the answers. But we already knew that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'll go next. So as a child, I always wanted to be like a doctor, a pediatrician, or a doctor. I love children, and I always see those commercials like donate 10 cents to, or donate a penny to this organization to help children around the world. So I always kind of wanted to be a doctor or a pediatrician to help children. And then as I got older to junior high school, I wanted to be a writer and a movie director. And my English teacher was very fond of me, and he always used to tell my mom open school nights, Mia writes these amazing stories. She writes so much and is so detailed, and this is her thing. So that's what I wanted to do and become. And then throughout, my life, as an adult, I've worked in the human services, public health field from straight out of high school all the way up until now. And I'm actually thankful that Shafar asked me that, because I kind of made a connection of kind of like me wanting to help people and then me being adult actually helping people. So like I created this thing as a child, to want to become a doctor, and then I expressed it through my stories, being a kid, not being able to do what I do now. And then now I'm here actually putting forth some type of, help into the world. So that was really, really funny.
You are giving the medicine of prevention.
Whoa, look at that.
That's really, really cool to think about. Now that I think about it, I just kind of made that connection. Like, wow, okay, I wanted to, help people as a child. And then as I got older, I would, create these stories where I'm helping people. And then now as an adult, I'm actually helping people through prevention, as you said.
You're doing it.
I do want to fulfill one of your other childhood dreams. Milo mentioned earlier that we will be starting a TikTok and possibly maybe even a YouTube. So we'll be reaching out to you to write those TikToks and possibly help create a storyboard for our YouTube show, whatever, however we take Pop in that. So we will be using you. So
I am ready for it. That's really, really cool. I love TikTok.
Man, you guys all had answers with like deeper meanings. Mine is really weird. Well, not that weird. When I was growing up, I really wanted to be a geologist. I really love rocks. I still do. I just love rocks. I just think they're so cool, and I can't explain to other people why I think that they're so cool. But I am not very scientifically minded. So once I realized you need to like understand things like chemistry and like physics to like be a geologist, I was like, I thought you got to just like look at rocks and like say that they're cool. But that's what I always wanted to be. I was the kind of kid, I was like always begging my parents to take me to the Natural History Museum so I could like look at all the rocks and gems and fossils and stuff. Like I was always just like, please take me to the museum. I think it's so cool. I was also really into science too, until I realized how hard it is. But that's what I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be a geologist.
Well, science can definitely trip you up in some of your plans. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I'm terrible at science. So, I also but I was into music. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah, I was going to say, Milo, you're a rock star. You are a rock star. So
I guess it makes sense.
Well, we really have enjoyed having you here, and we want to, continue to base some of our shows on the themes that are going on with NYC Pop. Mila, could you share contact information if anybody wants to get in touch with you to become a member of POP? I mean, I know you said they could look up NYC PRC or any of the sites of some of our guests, but how can they get in touch with you through email, say?
Yeah, so if folks want to reach out to me by email, my email is mward@children'saidnyc.org. And, so if you want to email me, you always can, and you can reach out also through social media, and we can be in touch about how you can start, attending some of our meetings.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was great. It went too fast.
Yes,
right?
Very fast.
But thank you for coming. We'll have you on again. Shavar and I are going to hang out. We're going to finish out the show, but we'll see you at the next meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Yes.
Enjoy your day, guys.
You too. Enjoy the
Have a good
sunshine.
one, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
that was cool.
That was very cool.
That was cool. Love the energy.
That got me excited all over again.
I was taking notes, and I was like, taking notes, like to how to help Pop grow, and this was great. This was like that actually was a think tank. You mentioned it, but it sparked so many ideas. It had ideas pop in my mind.
I just see so much hope for what we're doing, and I see so much possibility, and we've just gotten started. This thing's going to really explode, and hopefully it will become something that people know about. I want to do the comic book, and I want to
Right,
involve
yes.
kids, and make prevention a way of life for so many people.
I do want to share something. Someone, like, I mentioned I was a program director for X amount of years, and I want to say how much I appreciate the work that we're doing, is it allows me to be creative. Someone said, like, you got blessed to get the job that you have, like, doing the podcast, doing the pop, doing the prevention, all the work that helping people, and like I wake up with a smile on my face. So I appreciate all the work that I'm allowed to do under you, Ronnie, and with the team at Pop. So it's been a great it is a great experience.
And I feel the same way. I just feel like we've been blessed and given this gift where we can do something that it's a heavy subject,
right?
But we get to do it in a fun way.
Absolutely.
And
that's
still
what makes it
make
great.
a difference.
It's fun. It's not stressful. It's like work shouldn't be stressful. How do you make your job fun? Like, I don't know. That's a whole other show. We'll do another
That's
show.
a different show. But today we talked about the pop in prevention, or putting the pop in prevention.
Mhm.
We ask that you subscribe to our channel. You'll see it in the bottom right-hand corner, and tell your friends about it. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, please reach out to us. You can find us. I think we have our information on YouTube,
It'll
and
be on YouTube, and it'll be on all the social media platforms that
Right.
I'll attach you to it. So yes, but yeah.
Well, thank you for coming today, everybody who was here, and thank you for listening and watching us. We'll be, we're going to move on now, and we're going to go about the rest of our day. We'd rather stay on the podcast with you, but I will be back in another 2 weeks, won't we?
Mm-hmm. And this is the solution. Nothing changes. We change nothing.
Take care and be the difference in the world you live in today, one person at a time.